Welcome to Behind the Citgo, where we pull back the curtain on the unseen truth of addiction recovery and talk about things most people never get a chance to see. I'm your host, Josh Torbich. Each week, we're sitting down with people who lived it, led it, and are still learning from it today. This isn't polished, it's real, it's raw, and it's noted in the faith and hope because we do recover. So whether you're in recovery, walking alongside someone who is, or just trying to understand what healing really looks like, you came to the right place. Let's dig in. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Another episode of Behind the Citgo. We're glad you're here with us today. I'm especially glad that Nick and Tiffany entered the building. I'm really excited to have this conversation. I was telling Nick, whenever you got here, okay, that you're 10 years to the good, all right? So I'm just going to flush that out on the front. That's a miracle in itself.
Amen.
Yeah, so 2016, you came to see us over at Brunswick Christian Recovery Center in the cornfields. Yes. And then, all right, just to get us laughing for a second, talk about the stump, and then we'll get into the real context of it, okay?
The 2 months of my life that I spent working on that stove and working out all my aggression as well. No, it was beautiful, man. It's amazing what doing nothing repetitively can do for you.
Yeah.
Just the freedom found in that stump and the time spent alone with myself, facing what I didn't want to face.
So
Beautiful.
we handed you an axe, and we had this hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it was, called project hour or whatever we would do. And we said, here's this axe, and we're not bringing someone out with a stump grinder. We said, use this axe.
I don't remember even hearing this story.
I have a picture of him with the stump
Okay.
from 2016.
It was a sad day when that stump finally left. I had a lot of purpose in that stump.
I do now. I was sitting in my office, and I knew it fell after I heard everyone shouting outside. They knocked it over, and it was out of the hole. It was a big stump. Yeah.
At least 25, 30 feet wide.
Yeah, you left your mark. Yeah, it was probably 100 foot, took a football field. It's like a fish story. It gets bigger as you go.
Oh, okay.
Tiffany was getting serious. She's like, wrong. So today's perspective, though, one of the things that I think are really cool about the conversation, the title of the episode, I couldn't save them, but God could. You guys are one of the folks who've translated your recovery experience back into a really strong pillar inside of our community. You're so locally involved here in Brunswick County. Your family has been so kind to the ministry over the years, which we're so appreciative. I was just eating lunch in Hobbs Family Dining Room the other day. So thank you to your family for that investment you guys continue to make in the work of the ministry and believing in what we do. But there's a perspective that a lot of folks don't get to dabble into. And that's this dynamic that happens whenever a wife is learning to release the person that they care most about. Father of your kid at the time, and I remember the day that they pulled up on the process of checking into Brunswick Christian Recovery Center, but it usually doesn't start there. There was a few failed attempts first. Talk to us about that.
Quite a few.
Yeah, I think when he pulled in that day, we were 2 years into his addiction. And we just didn't know anything about addiction. Had never really had a meaningful, understanding of it, thankfully. But so we just kind of had been trying to figure it out. Like, we're in this space where, I thought, okay, I can fix this. There's going to be some way I can fix it. And then he had been to a couple different rehabs over the years. And every time it's like, okay, this is going to be the one. He's going to come back and this is going to fix him. And we were very much still in that mindset. But at that point, the reason he needed to come was because he had been to a rehab. He had gotten out. He had been doing better. And it was always this roller coaster of okay, he's doing, the rehab's going to fix him. He comes out, seems pretty good. Things are looking good. And then they would not be, and it was a little different every time. But this time he had not come home, a couple days before that at night. And I had been calling him all night. And I was just sitting there. I was calling hospitals. I was looking at the sheriff's website. Has he been arrested? I don't know. He had actually left to go to a Bible study that at a new church that we had been working at. And he actually did go to the Bible study, but went to buy drugs on the way home. And I was looking at all North Carolina stuff, and he had been arrested in South Carolina.
Oh.
So, I mean, I'm up the whole night when I get the phone call. And, you know, I did go and bail him out. And that's when I said, like, I can't do this anymore.
Wow. It's such a difficult place, but it's so common to so many families watching. The roller coaster thing, when you went like that with your hand,
Yeah.
a lot of folks tuning into this thing are going to go, yep, because that's very familiar in the process. And there's a little bit of like this depleting hope. And I always picture it as like a thermostat meter. And every failed attempt for the individual to try to get right, the meter runs out. You know, it starts getting lower and lower and lower. And we just see that happen with so many folks, and the version of the family trying to work their way into fully releasing so that they can actually let the bottom fall out, which is difficult. It doesn't look the same for the person traveling through the process, though. So in that 2-year period, you're trying to hold it together and fight this beast, right?
Absolutely. And such a change through that. Like at first it was, how do I get clean to please everybody else and then find this happy middle ground? And quickly that didn't work. And then circumstances changed. And now I'm not just trying to get clean for myself. I'm trying to get clean to have a relationship with Tiffany, to be a father in my son Ned's life. And for the first time, like I want it with every bit of me, but I'm that much more hopeless because it's out of reach. I've failed that many times. I have a track record of this does not work. I've tried everything under the sun and nothing has clicked. So just this hopeless place there for sure.
When I had spent that whole time thinking, why is this life not good enough? Why am I not good enough? Why is our son not good enough? And the flip side, you know, it's
Flip side, I'm like, why can't I be normal? Why can't I be good enough?
and we were still really stuck in that place. Like, okay, I'm going to fix this. And then it's like, I realized that day, I can't fix this, but I still believed it was on Nick to fix it. Like he had to do it, you know, and we didn't find out till later that that's not really how it works.
There is this common piece though, where folks say, you got to want it. Like I remember my dad would say that to me all the time. He'd be like, come on, son, you just like, and he was giving me like that old Coach Dixon pep talk, you know, type of thing. Like that was my high school football coach. He was like, come on, kid, you got to want it. And it's like counterintuitive a little bit because you're like, I do want it. Like I don't want this. You know what I mean? The daily withdrawals, the letting everybody down, the not being able to look at yourself in the mirror, the cringing before you go to sleep because you're hitting the replay button and all that stuff. I mean, this is a miserable life. And you're like, I don't want this, but why can't I hit the bridge and get to the other side of this beast? And it's cool to hear you guys talk about it because confused, Nick's confused, Tiffany's confused, the family's confused, the individual's confused, trying to figure out how this thing works. There was that place where I think you guys are kind of discussing or talking about where the clarity came to where like we might not know what the answer is, but it's definitely not me.
Right.
Yeah. So difficult place to come to as the key figure in this other person's life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the pillar of everything that Nick was fighting for, and you're coming to this place of like, I'm not there. I can't be enough for him to straighten out. There has to be something else. What did that feel like?
That was really difficult because, and I've said this to other ladies through the years that I've talked to, you know, that have been through similar situations, and it's not about you. When you can come to that place and realize that like it isn't, you can never be good enough because, you know, it's not really about you anyway. It's about his brokenness, and that we both actually have the same brokenness. And what we're looking for is to have our hearts changed by God. Like I can't change his heart. I can change my own heart. And that took a very long time, but it was something that we did have to come to in order to receive that freedom from Christ.
Arriving there wasn't easy for either of you. You had some fears that were rolling into this thing. The first thing you said, which is really common for all of us, is that you were worried about this being yet another failed attempt, another failed go at it. But what are some other things, and even wrestling with that fear?
Yeah. I was so positive that I was going to fail
Wow.
that I had no plans for sobriety. I only had plans for failure. I knew that this was the point when I was going to flunk out or I was going to mess up again. And I was so hopeless. I was ready to end it. For the chaos that we had experienced, the time and time again of trying to save myself just had me.
Why you agreed to BCRC?
Yeah, it was within walking distance to where I knew when you guys kicked me out, I could go get dope and I could overdose.
Wow.
That was my complete plan because they didn't need what I was giving them. They needed a real man in their life, and I was convinced at this point that it could never be me. And so, yeah, just the absolute hopelessness there.
Tiffany, listening to him say that, it's like,
it was really hard. You know, he never said that to me directly until after he got out of BCRC.
thank God.
Yeah, I think I would have missed even much more worried, but I still had those same fears though, right? Like every day I'm like, is he going to overdose? Is he going to come home tonight? Is he, is he going to get a car accident because whatever. But then it didn't go away when he went to BCRC because then it was like, well, I'm going to get the call from Josh and he's going to be like, he walked out.
Yeah.
Or, he's not here. Or he has to leave because he wouldn't do, whatever. And so that, it was like every day it was pins and needles. Like, is this going to work this time? Is he actually going to do it? And it was a little bit emotionally just draining. The whole thing.
They talk about it being a family illness because of that,
Absolutely.
right? Touching all of these different places of the family, and everyone's kind of walking around with like this sense of impending doom.
Right.
The individual traveling through the programs and their families are all bracing for impact. When you say that you were kind of ready to end it,
yeah.
Most people don't understand that from places where the rug's been pulled out from underneath of you and you're truly running on empty of hope, that's only a stone's throw away from those suicidal contemplations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I was at a point where the drugs brought me no relief. I could find no relief on my own. It was nothing but chaos in our lives, and I was the cause of it.
Yeah. And watching as folks kind of rallied up around you for another go at it, you knew that you could kind of see the tiredness growing in their eyes a little bit. Like you knew that you had let them down. So a lot of people say, well, if we can send them off to recovery with the hope they'll get well and a lot of motivation, but it's hard to rally the troops after you see the hope meter moving down and down and down.
Yeah. And that last, when he was arrested, it was like, I'm not going to take our son down this road. We feel very blessed with the timing of everything. And I know that God works all of that out because our son doesn't remember any of it.
Yeah.
He was so young.
Just a little baby.
Yeah, he was little. He doesn't remember it. And he only remembers the good version of Nick that he got later. And so it was just like it was like a time like this is just not going to happen. But luckily I still had, like, my dad never gave up hope on Nick. Even when I feel like I did, like, he was like, well, I'll drive him over there. I'm like, I'm not taking him, and he did.
It's incredible. I mean, just to be clear, like your dad's also someone who calls me when he's driving down the road to speak life over my current day and situation. So like, it's kind of in him, right?
Yeah.
For that. But he turned out to be your largest advocate for that. Take us through the day of arriving at the doorstep.
Man. So, old Jimmy, I jumped in his Chevy Silverado and we're headed down there, and I'm fully expecting this man to just like, not physically, but beat me up on the way down. Like I had left his grandson and his daughter abandoned. I don't know if this was the fourth or fifth time he was taking me to a rehab or a detox. And it was, well, Nick, you've done it again. But he was always so encouraging, and he just reiterated that even though I couldn't see it, God could change things and that there was a hope there, which was so beautiful because this is a dude that has every reason to not show me grace, to show me zero mercy. I mean, at this point, it's like, take him out back, man. Like, just get rid of it. So it's that much more beautiful. But then he brings me down there and we pulled up and I'd never seen it before. So I'm clearly like, we're in the wrong place. Like,
Very
there's
unimpressed.
this. I mean, there was no fence. There's no just cornfield. Like, okay.
He keeps saying it was a trailer. I'm like, no, it's not. It was stick built.
It's close. Not. I could see where you get trailers from. I mean,
In the middle of the field. You say that a lot.
Yeah. So I met a couple of guys out front, and they pointed me in, and your office was right in that front door. And I sat down on that couch, and I just broke. I just told you everything that I've been saying of like, I don't have any more strength to fight. I'm nothing but a burden on my family. I've tried this every way that I know that you can, and it's not working. But I was desperate, and you guys were awesome. You were like, yeah, that's cool. We don't have a bed for you. So I was like, okay, convinced that if I left there, I was going to die. So I said, well, the couch I'm sitting on, I could sleep here, or I'm happy to sleep on the floor. Can you just please make room for me?
I remember that.
And you guys, still don't know why, but y'all made room for me. You let me stay there that day. It was just so powerful. I didn't even know at the time. I mean, y'all made room for a guy who was positive he was going to flunk out. Like, no reason. Y'all used his bed for somebody else. But y'all made room, and y'all brought me in. And I don't think it was until day 2 or 3 that I started getting resentful and not wanting to be there and taking things for granted.
The cereal wasn't up to expectation, and the thermostat, Pastor Larry used to not like us have the thermostat at a certain temperature. So it was like, yeah, gratitude definitely slips out the front end after the first few days.
For sure.
It's to be expected.
Yeah.
There's this thing that you do when you invest in people and you kind of see what they don't see in themselves, and then you get to live in that victory place with them. Jimmy has to feel like $1 million every time that he looks at y'all. I mean, he's the only one who is, by your words, like, who is hanging on.
And I will have to shout out my mom as well, because she
was
too. She was, and I think she kind of followed his lead in that. But there are definitely times where, like, she looked me in the eye and she's like, "We're not doing this again, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're not, we're not doing this again." But she always loved Nick, and she always she saw the good in him, because we worked together prior to his addiction. And I think that was always what kept me coming back, was like, I knew that wasn't him. And I've had a lot of people ask me that, like, why would you have stayed with him? Why would you? When he gave his testimony at our church, I had many people come up and be like, I had no idea you were with him during that. And I'm like, I just knew that wasn't Nick. I had the good version of Nick. Now I have the even better version, but I just didn't give up hope in that. And when eventually I did, it was like the perfect timing, because that's when he was going to be CRC. And that's when I'm like, okay, I have no clue. I'm not sure that we'll ever even be able to co-parent. Like, at this point, it's like, I might need to be looking into legal aspects for my son. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And but God worked all that out. So.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing, because even though you get the folks through the door, that's really just like the first 1% of it. And I really wish that we had some magic Kool-Aid that folks drank that got them well.
Right.
But it's really not like that. All we really do as a program is facilitate an environment that people can start to subscribe to a different process than what they would have made up for themselves.
Right.
One that takes them to a better place and a better version. Those characteristics sometimes don't even follow you out the door, but you still turn out to be okay. A joke I make is like, why I got to make my bed? What's making your bed got to do with recovery? I'm like, it's just one good thing you can do. Right? And I said, and guess what?
Yeah.
If you go on for the next 10 years after you leave and never make your bed, you're not going to wind up smoking crack behind the Citgo because of that. Okay? It's okay. But I mean, that's really all that the recovery program does, in a large part, is try to facilitate the environment that can touch the throne of God for the person. Remove enough of them out of the process so that they can truly interact with something much higher and definitely more powerful. God did something for Nick. Was he working with you while he was gone?
100%. That there was, I had my family, definitely, they were there and helping me with that. And they've always had strong faith. But I think, and I was raised as a Christian, but I think at that point in my life, like, I I know I didn't understand my own faith. And I was really relying on theirs, I think. A lot of my testimony is that I was just kind of like, well, my parents were always in church and I'm there with them. And, I love worship and all these different things, but I didn't really have a personal relationship with Christ. And so during that time, I did begin to work on myself and try to be, better and to pray more and do all these things. But it really wasn't until I saw Nick after the first time I was able to see him after he had been in the program, I think for like 2 months ish. It
was Christmas Eve and I went there November 4th.
Okay. So Christmas Eve, and he got a day pass and he came, and he was so different. We had spoken on the phone briefly, like about logistic stuff before, so I really didn't know what to expect. And he came in and, we spent the first couple hours, he was just like hanging out with Ned, and it was like Christmas and, doing that kind of stuff. And I was just like staring at him like, this is weird. Like, it's just different, and it took me about 2 hours to realize he was peaceful. And that's what it was. He had this peace and there was no chaos, because I think that's the biggest part when you have never dealt with addiction and you're around someone who is actively in addiction, like it's just chaotic all the time. You're in this bubble and it's their chaos, but you're in it. You're in the bubble and you've got all these emotions happening every single day. You're mad, you're resentful, you're sad, you're worried. Like it's just, people aren't supposed to deal with those many deep emotions like that. And so I think that had really affected me, and I had started to realize like that it had been affecting me. So when he comes back and he's calm, I'm like, he's so peaceful. And then that made me mad because I'm like, wait, you're the one who ruined all of this. Wow. And now you're going to come back here and you're going to be peaceful? Wow. Like, not cool, And I waited until we put Ned down for a nap and we were going to have like an hour to ourselves, and I said that to Nick. And
wow.
Yeah. And
wow, the best news to hear on a day pass from. That's pretty tough.
Well, I mean, I'd walk back into the house that I had torn apart with more peace than I had ever possessed in my life. Like, there was no way she wasn't going to be upset.
Do you remember what you told me?
No, exactly.
He was very calm about it. He let me say what I wanted to say. And then he's like, like, I really wish that I could give you this peace. Like, if I would do it, if I could. But it's not mine. It's from God. And he said, you have to pursue that on your own, which also made me mad, because I'm like, oh. So now he's going to tell me.
Yeah, now he's preaching to me.
Yeah.
Bang. Okay.
And it was fine. We went on and we talked about other things. And then a couple of days later, he goes back, and a couple of days later, I sat with that and I was thinking about it like all day, like how beneficial that peace really could be. And like, how do I get that?
Wow.
And that was pretty life-changing, because I was like, I just have to get into God's word. And I bought a Bible study. Like, I didn't even know, like, it doesn't even matter which one, but like, that was the name. It was like the first one I found. It was from Proverbs 31, and it was on Joshua and Judges. And that's not exactly a peaceful book. We were talking about
fairly intense.
Like, why did I pick that? I have no clue. But it doesn't matter what you study in the Bible. It affirms itself. But the craziest thing was it was focused a lot on sin and how true repentance is turning away from sin. And it was just having me draw all these parallels really between what he was doing in rehab and then what I had to do outside, because I had sin as well. I was not living the way that I should be living, and I had to turn away from all that. And so that's kind of what kickstarted that, me pursuing my own relationship with Christ while he was at BCRC doing the same thing. So when he did graduate, we were both very different people.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Were you finding peace?
Yeah. So I believed in Jesus, and I believed that he was the Son of God and died for people's sins. I just didn't believe that he had died for my sins. It was actually Jenny's Branch Church that bought Christmas presents for all the guys' kids. So it was this like tangible, like I was literally holding it, act of love that I didn't deserve, that I could not have earned. And it was a physical representation of the gospel. So then for days, I'm like meditating on this and I'm just thinking about it. And we had those 3 buildings. I came out of one and I entered that middle building and I just thought about giving up. Not in like, take my life, but as in like, Lord, take my life. Like, I know that I'm not good enough, but I know that you are, and I believe that you can love me. So that's where I really experienced salvation. And I often say, I walked out of that middle building a completely different dude. And like, I looked the same. I was just as sick, whatever. But Tiffany's here testifying that I was a completely different dude because I had Christ. And it was so transformative.
Yeah, you could call your you just flushed out a good title for your testimony. It went from Lord take my life to now Lord take my life. You could figure out the grammatical someone who's an English major could figure out the right way to spell that with the right emphasis. It's not he. But that's really powerful that you're saying that while you wrestled with the idea of who you had been, that giving your life to Christ and truly saying, hey, you know what, Jesus, I'm in it.
Right.
Like, I don't know what that's going to look like because that's the way we all get into it. It's like, don't know what it's going to look like, but you know what? I'm about it. I'm about to try this thing. And when you see that true version come out of you, you know, when it's a heartfelt, sincere, and then you throw that action behind it, does that translate into peace? That's like the key ignition for
it? Did for me.
Yeah.
Because I was pursuing being a person that was good enough. I thought that existed. And once I realized that my sin was no different than anyone else's, it was a level playing field. Like I for the first time in my life, I was just like everyone else.
Wow.
And we all had problems, but I had come to the answer to the problem. When we talk about all the time, like in 12 steps in recovery, like you don't have to be a heroin addict to benefit from going through the 12 steps. And it's like that became clear to me, but on this like just every Christian kind of way. And it was just so beautiful.
You did start to talk about that a lot. I think maybe a year after you graduated from the program. Just that a lot of time, you know, addicts or people that have ever experienced addiction, they feel very like isolated, like they feel like outcast almost. And he had talked about how, you know, the ground is even at the foot of the cross because we all have like, yes, if you're an addict, your sin is, you can see it more. And, you know, I might be able to say, well, he's an addict. You don't know what my hidden sin is. You know, you're not seeing it. So I think that was really cool when you started putting that together because it also just helped me understand, like, we're the same broken, all of us. But, you know, we were talking in our marriage, like in our relationship, like we're the same broken. And the answer is the same with Jesus. So.
Yeah, watching, you know, it's funny because I picture you whenever he came home on that visit and, you know, he's got this gift, right? Yeah. And I'm picturing you and you're kind of watching the monkey through the glass, standing over there. I can see Nick on the living room floor playing with Ned. You're standing over there like this. What is up with it? And it was like, you want to believe it because obviously you're like, man, something's different. Yeah, okay, something's different. But then you still had that little thing back there like,
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know if I want to believe this. Yeah. That I just kind of was a couple hours. And I mean, even after he had gone back, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. We had some really great conversations. I knew he was different, but I'm like, can I do this again?
Sure.
Like, you know, it had only been like 3 months. So it was like,
yeah,
still fresh. Yeah. I know the program is like a lot longer now. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you know, we were still both like, we wanted to be together, but at least on my end, it was like, there's going to have to be a lot of things to change, a lot of things to happen. I didn't think I would ever be able to trust him again. I didn't think I'd be able to live in that peace that he had. Even if I had it, I would have to have it separately. Like, that's just kind of what was going through my mind. And I hadn't made any decisions, but I was still just, which I think is really great advice for people who went through it. Like, just don't make a lot of decisions that aren't necessary. But yeah, just wait.
Skeptical. Still, still skeptical. You know, I think about the burden that we carry as the folks in recovery programs, and we know that something's happening often. Like we really feel it in our bones that we're truly doing something different or laying down a new layer of commitment. But we're such good fakers and manipulators that it looks the same as previous attempts, even though it feels very much different for us. I always made the joke like, all right, y'all, don't be mad when your parents aren't ready to embrace you fully just because you hopped in the car for your visit. And on the way to Buffalo Wild Wings, you turned on K-Love. And when you got there, they're like, look at my baby putting on the Christian radio station. And then you get the Buffalo Wild Wings and you say great. And you're like, everyone else digs in and you're like, whoa, 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 stop. And then you say the most Pharisee riddled prayer that anyone's ever seen, like trying to prop yourself up in the synagogue. You're trying,
So good.
but that just as that's the joke part, but there really is that burden that we feel, Nick. We want them to see.
Exactly.
So talk to us about that.
I mean, you have such an inward change that's going on. And for me, it's like, it's real this time. Like it's actually working. But you had seen me a month clean before. You had seen me 6 months clean before. I mean, we talked about I went to jail leaving a Bible study. Like, you know, you had...
Must have been a good Bible study. Yeah, it was great. They got really wild down there.
No, it just goes to like, you run the race. You do the things you're supposed to do. You think you make everyone think you're not as sick as you were. Meanwhile, you're just getting sicker and sicker and sicker.
Yeah. And then, so the burden that we feel is to try to, you know, almost preemptively convince.
Yeah.
That the family's not quite ready to believe it.
Right.
We know it's going to take a track record, but that can be discouraging in itself for many folks exiting recovery programs that the trust hasn't crept back in.
Well, and it can make you second guess. Like if they don't see it in me as just real.
That's a great point.
100%. And that's the goal of those Pharisee prayers. It's like, God, something has changed. Like you haven't seen it. So let me make it really clear to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that might take a couple of years of living it out.
Yeah.
That might take a track record behind you. Like, what does he say? You walk into the woods for 10 years. You're not going to walk out in 2 days.
Yeah. I remember I was so upset. I've been sober for 3 years. I was leading the ministry and the work that we were doing. I remember I was talking to my brother Lee on the telephone, and I'd felt like, even though I hadn't really created anything yet, I was just kind of the den mother. I would put on my little hat and drive that bus and still wasn't getting a paycheck. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing just being there and living in the rehab with the folks. But I remember like thinking that I was like, well, like, wow, okay, I'm really recovered and it's been 3 years. I remember being so discouraged when he said to me, yeah, we're all just kind of waiting and seeing. Yeah, and I knew what he meant by that. You know, like my whole family was at arm's length still. None of them lived in this community at that time. But they going through that process, they were like, is it real or not real? I remember being so upset. Like, what do you mean? Like, I'm out here every day committed to this ministry, doing all this crazy stuff for for nothing. And it just sits on you so differently when you want people to see it so bad. Problem is that sometimes it makes you reckless.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the next step, I think, when he's leaving the rehab program, how are you coming to reconcile with the decision of like, all right, I've made my mind up and we're going to try it again?
Well, because we had Ned, there was always that connection.
Oh, yeah.
And I never wanted, especially because I could see how well he was doing, I never wanted to keep him away from Ned. And so we started spending time together. We set boundaries quickly. Not that I remember all those boundaries now because it's been so long, but I remember, you know, we weren't living together. Yeah. Yes. In Calabash. But we were having set times that we would see each other. And so little by little, you know, we started doing a Bible study together, and we just had some boundaries in place, but we were having intentional time together. And just sometime over that next 3 months, I feel like God just really changed my heart towards him. And people ask me all the time how I forgave him for all the things that happened, and not just like the lying. I mean, there were other things. You know, he pawned this engagement ring. Now wedding ring was pawned like 3 times. Save one, got it back every time.
Done that.
And and I mean,
You're laughing about it now. That's one of the examples.
It's so beautiful to us now. Oh, he said what it represents.
That's
Everywhere we came from.
That's a great
That's one of the times my mom was like, we're not eating.
not doing this.
Yeah, because she's with me. We're going, I don't know where he is. We're going to get the ring and we're going. So things like that, those were the things that like I always thought I couldn't forgive. And like the lies, like I'm going to Bible study and then he was arrested in like a sting operation, like those are the things to me. But that's the power of Jesus Christ. He redeemed all of it. And I didn't even really have to do anything except just be following and living in his will and asking the Holy Spirit to show me, like, is this right? Like, should we be together? And within about 3 months, it was truly, I just knew that it was okay and things were going to be okay. And God had changed Nick. He had changed his heart. He had changed me. And that we just had to continue to follow him. And so it was in May. You graduated in January. And then in May, we decided that we were going to get married. And we started planning just like a quick wedding for November. So November 16th, he went to BCRC, got sober. November 2017, we got married. And then November 2018, we welcomed our second son, Oliver. So Novembers are like really special.
To mention Thanksgiving.
The holiday season. No, but we love November.
That's incredible. Yeah, wow. Okay, that's awesome. Little touch point with November. Plus, it's our perfect weather around.
It is. Right. It's the best one.
It's the best month for the beach. That's right. So when you're talking about that, though, it just kind of spurred me on a little bit out of interest. You guys are traveling through that entire process, and it's always funny. You can tell the story really slowly on the front end. All the hard work was done in the years that we skip over because change was starting, but you guys have now been together a decade of him post recovery, right? It's 10 years that you guys have been stewards of this new life that God has given you. And that is the right way to say it. It's you have shared, you went through a transformation process. He went through a transformation process. You even welcomed a new little teammate to the team. So God has given you a new life to steward. And what are some of these that have happened over the years where things have gotten tough again? Things have gotten difficult or you've had to rewrite the script. Can you think of any?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's going first?
Life is just, it's crazy and it never slows down. But I think that we had to navigate a lot of different things quickly in our marriage because I am a little bit older than Nick. And so I was a little bit more established in my career when we met. And then, he had all these years of really no work really, other than like transient type things because of the addiction. And so I was more established. So when it was time to like, these traditional roles, it didn't make sense. I'm like, we need childcare. And how are we going to do this? And we tried every which way. And Nick got his real estate license. And we were, we had figured all of this out. And our son was in kindergarten and the other, we had a nanny and then COVID. And everything kind of shut down. And our nanny couldn't help us anymore. And that's when my business even took off more with sales and rentals. And so Nick said, you know what, I'll be here. Ned was out of school because they had closed schools. He said, I'll be here with the boys and basically homeschooling a kindergartner who luckily already knew how to read by the time schools closed.
Wow.
Oliver was like my 2-year-old assistant. So we worked out.
Well, also your assistant.
2-year-old assistant is just wow.
Yeah. So that was a lot to navigate. And those were ups and downs in our marriage. Like, Nick feeling like he wasn't contributing enough, like meanwhile I'm like, I can't do what I'm doing unless you're doing this. So like but finding our worth in Christ, not in like these traditional things and what we like bring to the marriage, equalizing that. And I saw him struggle with that a lot. And then an identity as a man, not just that, you did your weightlifting or powerlifting thing, and you could probably speak more to that.
Just on the identity part, like I felt the urge to be a provider, and I had never given credit to being a spiritual provider. And so I'm entering into this, what could be beautiful season, and I'm starting it out with well, this isn't the role I'm really supposed to be in, and what am I really doing? Meanwhile, God's giving me back time with my son that I had lost, and with the other son he had blessed us with, allowing me to be the spiritual provider in my home and have this time. Like, so luckily I saw that pretty quickly, which was cool. And then in those first few years, like I joke sometimes my first church was Food Lion, because that, like, everyone's sin being the same, I found an odd sense of purpose in just caring for the people around me and caring for that community. They had seen me walk in there at my worst, and then they saw me walk in there with joy. And it was odd how God would open these conversations. It's like, for the first time in my life, I cared about other people, like, more than I cared about myself. Throughout addiction, yeah.
You were doing ministry while he was in charge of getting all the groceries.
But
I remember that.
it's wild thinking about, 2 or 3 years out of BCRC, and I'm struggling with purpose. And I feel more purpose in sharing the gospel at Food Lion while I'm checking out than I ever could doing anything else. So there's like these constant pats on the back, these mountains of like, hey, your ego's starting to come back into it. You're starting to try and save yourself. And then it's like, no, we surrender. Like, what got us here in the first place, and the focus on that.
Wow.
For sure.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how life just lifes. And it's up to us to not think of ourselves exempt from life doing what it does to folks and all of those changes that you guys wrestled with. So today, though, one of the things that I definitely wanted to highlight was just recently I came in person to watch you share your story at your church that you guys are a part of, Coastal Church. And you did a phenomenal job. You shared your testimony in both services. And I appreciated the shout out. It's always nice when you get to say, hey, and yeah, Josh down there. And it's like, oh, Nick remembers me from all the way up there. And then I got to tune in online, and you just preached. You ministered to the church.
Yeah.
Right.
I was given 2 sermons.
Yeah, June and December.
Yeah.
And let's just, for context, though, for those who don't know Coastal Church, y'all are doing a couple thousand members on.
Yeah.
So it's not like you preach to the 10 people at the Bible study you got arrested.
Right. Absolutely. No, it's been wild. And I mean, even just getting my testimony.
Yeah.
So, we're going through all this stuff, and we find Coastal, and like, that was just a church we attended at first. Like, we're just completely consumers. And then somehow we both got into serving, and then that just gave us a new sense of healing and just community. And we were in a smaller building, doing about 300 to 400 every Sunday, and we got the movie theater. So we're renovating this, and was this 2024, like July, August. Lucas had heard me give my testimony at the Christmas gala that you invited me to. So he's like, will you give your testimony for Christmas? And I'm like, I've given communion here once. This was 2 minutes. Like, you have Easter and Christmas. These are Super Bowl for
These
church.
are pretty important days.
What? So I began preparing for that. And the story about the day pass visit ends with Jimmy giving me a ride, not back to BCRC, but he dropped me off at the movie theater because somebody had donated a movie for us all to watch. I don't remember what movie it was.
Coastal Church?
Yeah, same address, 5200 Bridgers Road.
Wow.
8 years later, I'm in the same place. And I didn't know if we were going to be together when I left that day pass here. And I'm right back giving my testimony to 1,400 people that Christmas.
Wow.
Just amazing. And it was
full
such
circle moment. That's a full circle.
It takes a couple months to even figure it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he asked me in July,
Yeah.
and then we're talking about like music or something in October, and I'm just like, your dad dropped me off at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And she's like, what is this mean? And I just keep
He's like,
repeating it.
on Christmas Eve at Coastal. I'm like, oh, it's not like a God hug. Like,
full
just like
circle moment.
totally just like,
It's like, hey, Look at what's happened. Wow, that's incredible. I got
Yeah.
goosebumps.
God's like, you're worried about
Yeah.
how you're going to get through this, but
Yeah.
like, how did I get you through the past 8 years? Like, calm down, little buddy.
That is so crazy, though. Yeah,
It's amazing.
just patting us on the head. I love it when I feel like God's just said, "Come,
It's
okay, kid, just pat you on the head a little bit."
Yeah, it just gives you like a little moment where you're like, okay, I'm going in the right direction. Like, thank you.
It gives you a hope for like, I mean, back then, getting dropped off at the movie theater was such an insignificant detail.
Yeah.
Like, I think about all the insignificant details we're going to be testifying of in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So
That's true. Yeah, you start to remember some more important things as you travel through it. What will year 20 look like? Another 10 years. You gotta figure out what a message would be to the family members who are contemplating this rug pull, right now from backing away the table. If you had something to say to them, what would you say? Taking yourself back to that day, what would you say to the same version of yourself?
I think the most important thing that you can do is work on your relationship with Christ, like first. Because a lot of the problems that we have, if not all of them, between us, they start this way. As if you fix them this way, then you have the chance of fixing them this way. But it doesn't even really matter what Nick does, right? Or if this is the time that he gets sober or he doesn't get sober. If I had known, like, I just have to focus on my relationship with Christ, then I think, when he walked in and just had that peace, like, I would have already been there too, like, and it would have, and God and his sovereignty, he did that anyway. The timing was perfect, but yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And then I think, so working on and what does that, your relationship with Christ, what does that really look like is being in the Word, like being in the Bible, and just getting to join a church, like get into community, because that's where you're going to find people that can come beside you and walk through those journeys with you. I was so blessed to have like an amazing support system from my family, but I really wasn't like trying to get involved in a church. And once I did that, my parents were going to Sharon Methodist at the time with, remember, Eddie Hill and Nita Hill, and they were so wonderful. And they did become that support system. So many people at that church. And now, they're not here in the community anymore, but a lot of the people that went to church with us they're at Coastal, and I still see them, and they're so encouraging. And, just having that, like that community. And then also, serving at that church, because so much of what we talk about is when you serve, like you're actually being served. And it would be a good distraction too, like to kind of keep your mind off of things, but doing it in like a positive manner. So I think that's all very important.
Nick, someone's checking in to a recovery program for the fifth time, and they're saying, if this thing doesn't pan out, Lord, take my life.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it quits and make my permanent exit. What do you say to him?
I tell them to go ahead and say, Lord, take my life. Like, clearly, you're not at a point where you want to live anymore. You're not living what would be considered a life. And no matter how put together you get, you're still not going to be fully alive until you encounter a Savior. That the feeling of good enough that you are chasing, the normal that you think exists, was never meant for us. We are born into this flesh. We are born into sin. It doesn't matter if it's a needle going into your arm or resenting what your neighbor has that you don't. Sin is sin, and it's all covered by the blood of Christ.
Man, that's really powerful. You guys' story is a blessing to so many people, and just hearing it now, I got to hear the testimony. I heard the movie theater thing there, but even listening to the finer details of it, of how you guys both got to share today, I appreciate you coming to do it. So today, the conversation that we had, I couldn't save them. This was us having a real conversation about the loved one traveling through the person who's actually in the rehab program, trying to find salvation for themselves and navigate away from those addictions. We really appreciate you tuning in with us. Nick, Tiffany, rock stars, don't go anywhere. All right, stay in the community, keep doing what you do. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time.